What if everything you've been told about compound interest is only half the truth? Not a lie exactly, but not the full picture either. And that missing piece, that one number they never tell you, is why most people who start investing still end up broke at 60. Stay with me. In the next 17 minutes, I'm going to show you something most financial advisors either don't know or don't want you to know. It's called the 7-4-2 rule. And by the end, you'll never look at your savings account the same way again. Let's go. You've heard it 1,000 times. Start early. Invest consistently. Let compound interest do its magic. Every personal finance book, every YouTube channel, every well-meaning uncle at a family dinner has said these exact words to you. And maybe you believed them. Maybe you even opened a brokerage account and patted yourself on the back for being financially responsible. But here's what nobody tells you after that. Compound interest has a dirty secret. It doesn't work the way they draw it on the whiteboard. That beautiful hockey stick curve? That exponential explosion of wealth? It's real, but it's conditional. And the condition is something almost nobody talks about. It's a threshold. A number. A specific, calculable point that you have to reach before compounding actually starts doing the heavy lifting for you. Before that number, you're basically doing all the work yourself. You're the engine. The math isn't helping you, not really. You're just adding money and watching it grow a little. That's not compounding. That's just saving with extra steps. After that number, the math becomes your partner. Your money starts making more money than you are. The curve bends. The hockey stick appears. And suddenly the same effort produces 3x, 5x, even 10x the result. That threshold, that magic number, is what the 7-4-2 rule is all about. And once you understand it, you're going to feel two things simultaneously. Relieved because finally it makes sense. And maybe a little angry because nobody explained it to you this clearly before. Let's build this from the ground up. Picture this. Two brothers. Same parents, same city, same middle-class upbringing. Alex is 22, just started his first job. Daniel is 28, 6 years older, just got promoted and finally earning well. Alex reads a blog post about investing, doesn't fully understand it, but something clicks. He starts putting $200 a month into a basic index fund at 10% annually. Not rich. Not sophisticated. He just starts. Daniel waits. Not ready yet. Car to pay off. Student loans. A trip. Then maybe invest. By the time Daniel starts at 35, he's putting $500 a month. More than twice Alex, into the same fund, same return. Who ends up wealthier at 65? Most people say Daniel. More money invested, better income. But they're wrong. Alex ends up with nearly $200,000 more despite investing less than half the total amount. The difference isn't discipline, isn't intelligence, isn't even income. It's timing relative to the threshold. Alex crossed the compounding threshold earlier. And once you cross it, the math does something almost unfair to the people who started late. This is the first thing you need to feel before we go further. Because if you don't feel it emotionally, the numbers alone won't change your behavior. Now let's talk about what the 7-4-2 rule actually is. It's a framework built from the rule of 72, one of the most powerful underused mental models in personal finance. Let's start with 7. The number 7 represents the doubling time. If your money is growing at 10% per year, which is approximately the historical average return of the US stock market, then your money doubles roughly every 7 years. Take 72, divide by your interest rate, you get your doubling period. At 10%, that's 7.2 years. We round to 7. So if you have $10,000 today, in 7 years you have $20,000. In 14 years, $40,000. In 21 years, $80,000. In 28 years, $160,000. Now here's where it gets interesting. In the first 7 years you gain $10,000. In the next 7 years, another $10,000. But in the third period you gain $20,000 just from existing. And in the fourth period, $40,000. Without adding a single extra dollar. The math doesn't treat every period the same. It gets exponentially more generous over time. But, and this is the crucial part, only after you've built enough base capital. Only after you've crossed the threshold. And that threshold is connected to the number 4. The 4 in the 7-4-2 rule represents the number of doubling cycles you need before compounding becomes your primary wealth builder, rather than your own contributions doing the heavy lifting. For cycles, A 10% return, that's 28 years. And this is where people lose hope. I'll be old by then. But wait, because this is where it gets genuinely counterintuitive. The 4 cycles aren't really about time. They're about base capital. If you start with $10,000, for doubling cycles takes you to $160,000. At that point, your money is growing by roughly $16,000 per year. More than many Americans earn in a month. Your money is now working harder than you are. But here's the twist nobody mentions. You don't have to wait 28 years to get there. You can manufacture those 4 cycles by building your base aggressively in the early years. This is the strategy of compressing time. If you can reach $40,000 in investable assets by year 5 instead of year 14, you've skipped 2 doubling cycles. You didn't wait for the math. You bought time. This is what the wealthy understand that most people don't. They manufacture their compounding threshold as fast as possible. They sacrifice early because every dollar of base capital in those years is worth $16 at retirement. Let that sit for a second. Now let's talk about the 2. And this is the most emotionally uncomfortable number in the whole framework. The 2 represents the number of doubling cycles most people actually complete. The average investor starts in their mid-30s, invests inconsistently, panics during crashes, pulls out at the wrong moment, and then wonders why their 401k hasn't grown the way they imagined. 2 cycles. Maybe 2.5. And that's the flat part of the hockey stick. The part where compounding feels like a lie because at 2 cycles it kind of is. The returns feel marginal. The growth feels invisible. And doubt creeps in. That doubt is one of the most expensive feelings a human being can have. Because it leads to behavioral mistakes that destroy wealth faster than any market crash ever could. Here's why people stop at 2 cycles. They start with hope. Investing feels exciting. But after a few years the results don't match projections. The account grew, yes, but not dramatically. And the human brain, wired for immediate feedback, interprets slow visible growth as failure. It's not failure. It's physics. It's the nature of exponential curves. They look flat at the beginning, and then they don't. But most people quit right before the bend. Psychologists call this the valley of disappointment. The gap between starting a good habit and the moment when results become visible. And the compounding valley is wider and deeper than almost any other domain in life, because the timeline is measured in years, not days. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah is 32, a project manager in Chicago, smart, disciplined. She's put $300 a month into her Roth IRA since 27. 5 years. Roughly $22,000 in account value. And she's frustrated. She did everything right. 5 years later, $22,000? At this rate, I'll be 80 before I have real money. So she starts questioning. Maybe real estate. Maybe crypto. Not reckless. Just human. She can't see the bend in the curve coming for her in 8 more years. What Sarah doesn't know. She's 3 years from her threshold. By 35, her account crosses $40,000. From there the math shifts. The account generates more annually than she contributes monthly. By 45, over $150,000. By 55, north of $400,000. By 65, over $1.2 million from $300 a month. That story only happens if she stays. The greatest threat to Sarah's wealth isn't a stock market crash. It's her own psychology at month 60 of a 240-month journey. This brings us to one of the deepest forces working against ordinary investors. Loss aversion. Research by Daniel Kahneman showed us something uncomfortable. We feel losses roughly twice as intensely as equivalent gains. Losing $1,000 hurts as much as gaining $2,000 feels good. Every time the market dips, and it will, your brain processes it with twice the emotional weight. A 10% drop feels catastrophic. A 10% gain feels adequate. This isn't weakness. It's the architecture of a brain built when physical losses meant death. But in the modern financial world, this ancient wiring becomes a liability. Because the market's natural behavior, rising, correcting, rising further, triggers loss aversion constantly. And every trigger is an invitation to quit. The people who build real wealth through compounding haven't discovered some secret strategy. They've developed an unusual relationship with that fear. They feel it, and they stay anyway. Not because they're fearless, but because they understand what's on the other side of the valley. Now here's the counterintuitive truth I promised you. More money does not solve the compounding problem. More time does. This feels wrong. We believe the answer to financial problems is more money. But invest $1,000 today at 10%, in 40 years you have roughly $45,000. Invest $2,000 but start 10 years later, 30 years at 10%, and you end up with about $35,000. Twice the money invested. Less result. Because those first 10 years did more work than doubling your contribution ever could. Time is the actual currency of compounding. And unlike money, you cannot borrow it, earn more of it, or recover it once it's gone. Every year you delay is not just a year lost. It's a future doubling cycle that will never exist for you. It's compound growth on money you never made. This is why the 7-4-2 rule begins with 7. Because the first doubling cycle is the most valuable purchase you can ever make. More valuable than the car upgrade you're considering. More valuable than any consumption decision you'll make in your 20s. One doubling cycle started early can be worth $300,000 to $500,000 by the time you retire. Not because of the money you put in, but because of the time you gave it. So what does this rule tell you to do? First, find your threshold. Your current investable net worth tells you how many cycles you've completed. $10,000 0. At $20,000 1. At $40,000 2. At $80,000 3. At $160,000 4. That fourth point is where the math starts fighting for you. Second, compress early cycles through aggressive saving, not aggressive risk. Many people who understand early compounding make the mistake of taking excessive risk to accelerate. When you lose early capital, you don't just lose the money, you lose the compounding potential across every future cycle. Protect your early base like it's sacred. Because mathematically, it is worth more than anything you'll accumulate later. Third, build systems that make you invisible to your own decisions during market downturns. Automate your investments. Make it structurally hard to pull money out during dips. Because your greatest enemy isn't inflation or low returns. It's yourself at 2 a.m. when the market drops 18%, and your brain says wait until things stabilize. Things always stabilize. But the doubling cycle you interrupted never comes back. Let me give you one more story. Different from Sarah and Alex. This one is quiet. Marcus is 45. A teacher. Never made a lot of money. But at 23, straight out of college, he set up an automatic transfer of $150 a month into a low-cost index fund and did absolutely nothing else. No market timing. No panic in 2008. No euphoria in 2021. Just $150 every month for 22 years. At 45, his account is approximately $145,000. He contributed $39,600 total. The rest, over $100,000, came entirely from the math. Marcus doesn't think of himself as a financial success story. He just does that thing where he puts money away. He doesn't track it obsessively. He doesn't have a finance identity. He just understood one principle. Start early, don't stop, and trusted the mechanics to do the rest. By 65, letting it compound untouched, he'll have over $1.1 million. From $39,600 in contributions. A 27x return. Not because he's brilliant. Not because he picked the right stocks. But because he crossed the threshold early enough that time became his greatest asset. Most people will never know his name. But Marcus will retire richer than colleagues who earned 3 times his salary and spent it trying to live like it. Now the thing you might be thinking, this is great, but I'm already 38. Or 42. Or 48. Is it too late? No. But your approach needs to shift. You can't rely on time anymore, so you compensate with higher contribution rates. And you become ruthless about eliminating wealth destroyers, specifically debt. High-interest debt is anti-compounding. It works against you with the same force investments work for you. Credit card debt at 22% while investing at 10% means the math is net negative. The late starters sequence. Eliminate high-interest debt first. Build 3 months of expenses as a buffer second. Then invest aggressively and consistently. This order isn't exciting, but it's what the math supports. A person who begins at 42 and invests seriously for 23 years still arrives somewhere meaningful. Not where the early starter lands, but far beyond the person who waited until 55. And infinitely ahead of the one who never started. The second best time to plant a tree is today. Not a cliché. That's compound math stated plainly. Let me tell you the thing almost nobody says because it doesn't feel empowering. It feels uncomfortable. Compounding requires boredom. Month after month, year after year, while people around you appear to be winning faster with exciting strategies. Crypto, options, flipping, trading. Some of them are winning for a while. Until they aren't. The exciting paths get the attention. The boring path gets the money. There's a concept called distinction bias. We overweight differences that feel important now but become irrelevant over long time frames. The exciting investment feels better in the moment. But in 20 years, the boring one often wins by a margin so decisive it looks like the exciting path made a fundamental mistake. The 7-4-2 rule is boring. 7-year cycles. For thresholds. 2 cycles before most people quit. No secret stock. No special timing. Just time, consistency, and the audacity to stay boring while the world chases noise. The people who build real wealth from ordinary incomes are almost universally uninteresting investors. Nothing dramatic to say at dinner parties. They just have money. Quietly. Abundantly. And they sleep like babies. So here's where I want to leave you. At the start I said compounding is a lie unless you hit the magic number first. The lie isn't in the math. It's in how it's sold as effortless magic. Just put money in and watch it grow. The reality is the first few years feel like nothing is happening. The progress is real but invisible. You're in the flat part. And that flat part is where everything gets decided, not by income, not by intelligence, but by the choice to keep going when results don't yet match effort. The 7-4-2 rule isn't a strategy for overnight wealth. It's a framework for understanding exactly where you are, how many cycles you've crossed, and what it takes to reach the point where math starts doing the heavy lifting. And once it does, you'll wonder what you were ever afraid of. There are 2 versions of your future self. In one you stayed. You crossed all 4 cycles. You became financially untouchable, not because you were lucky, but because you understood how compounding actually works and what it requires. In the other version, you waited. Things never felt stable enough. The money never felt sufficient. The timing was never right. And the 4 cycles never came. That decision, the one that splits those 2 futures, is being made right now. Not someday. Now. Money files exist to help you become that first version. The one who crossed the threshold. The one who let the math do the work. Before you go, one real question. Where are you in your compounding journey right now? 0 cycles. 1. Stuck in the valley? Just starting today? Drop it in the comments. Your answer might be exactly what someone else watching this right now needs to keep going. It is worth it. Promise you. This is Money Files. The math is always on your side. As long as you stay long enough to let it work.